Hey guys, Blitz here. So today I am here with my APA Clash of Kings power rankings video slash just I don't know what you want to call it, maybe like a team analysis. I'm just gonna kind of go over who was picked on what team, what I think about the pick, whether they were overpaid, underpaid, whether their price was fair, and then I'll try to go over what teams I think might do well and how I think the team will do. Um, I do apologize, some guys, if I don't know you, because I know a lot of these people are just strictly APA guys, and I've just got into my first APA season, so I'm not as familiar with a lot of the APA guys. But if I don't know you, no offense, I'm just kind of new to the APA, so a lot of these guys I do know, but there are a few people who maybe are just very, very good in this format that I just don't quite know. But I will be giving my opinion on these players and whether I think these teams are good or not. So this first team here, we have God's Blessing of the APA. Their two captains are Aaron 2420 and Ultra Player. I forgot to mention, so every team does have two captains. So I will also be saying what I think about the captains. Um, these guys I do know fairly well. I have played Aaron before. I played him in DPL. And I know this is one team that was considering drafting me. Aaron did message me saying like, "Hey, like, are you interested in playing for us and whatever?" So that was nice to be picked by them. I know Aaron; he does run BBL, so I know him pretty well. And they're both pretty strong players. I believe Ultra Player just won the APA, so especially in the APA server, he has a very strong rep as well as Aaron. So that's definitely a good captain core. So their first pick was II. Um, I was a DPL captain this past season, I believe, and one of the strongest players in the format, in my opinion. Like, I definitely put him top 5, top 10. So he went for 36.5, which I think is fair for I. It was only a 100K budget for this, unlike DPL where it was 120. But I think 36.5 for a player like I, who, from what I heard in DPL, was pretty good with helping his team build and everything too. So I think you're not only getting a good player, but you're also getting somebody who will most likely win their games. Um, the thing that is a little bit weird about this is there is low tier as well as LC. So personally, I don't know a lot of guys who are going to be playing LC. Like, I assume a lot of the top guys like and as you can see on this team as well, like Money Guy, they'll probably just be playing like Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, just regular draft format. Maybe dropping into the low tier, which is usually mons that are about 10 points and below would be considered low tier. Maybe a little bit higher, like 12 and below. Um, I really haven't looked at it because I don't plan on playing low tier, so I've really only looked at the standard. But a lot of these guys, I'm just going to be judging them based off their regular tier abilities. So if they are LC gods, I apologize for not quite knowing that. So anyways, that's I. Next I drafted Mio. Mio for 15K. I'm not sure. I know Mio has been around for a while. They're a very solid player, but I don't know if 15K Mio is maybe the best pick, especially after I get through the rest of these drafts, because there are some absolute steals that went late. Um, like a lot of people were maybe slept on, or I know some people didn't sign up till late, and I think a lot of these guys, especially the teams where like the two captains are most as APA guys, picked guys that they know from APA. So if these guys weren't part of APA, they might not have been well known by a lot of the captains. So they kind of slid till late in the draft, as you guys will see when I move on to some more teams. But Mio for 15K in round two, I think, is a bit of an overpay. So Mio, if you want to prove me wrong, go ahead. But I think Mio will definitely be a strong player. Just 15K might be a little too much, but I'll be more than happy if I'm proven wrong. Next we have Erob22 for 4K. I don't really know anything about them. For 4K, I'm not gonna say a whole lot about the 4Ks because it's only 4K, so I'm not gonna say like, yeah, you overpaid. It's like 4K was the minimum. But so I know Rob is a APA mod, so that might be why he was picked. Um, I believe he was in the same APA league as me. I think he made playoffs, so he must be a decently strong player. Just I don't personally know a lot about him, so I'm not going to be able to talk about him like as much as I can say about the next guy, which is Money Guy 9559. Um, if Aaron and Ultra Player are smart, they will make sure that he gets to play Sky, so he gets a free 6-0. Money is a really strong player. He was a DPL captain for this last season, so obviously he does know what he's doing. So I definitely think Money will be a good player for this team. I think another guy that'll be giving good team support. So I think Money for 21K is definitely a good pickup. Um, I think Money could have actually gone for a little bit more. Like I think if Money gets nommed, say round 1 or round 2, he's probably going for like high 20s. But I think because he was, well, he was their fourth pick. I'm not sure what round he was nominated, but if he was nommed a little bit later, he probably would have gone for a little bit, or nommed a little earlier, he probably would have gone for a bit more. Next we have Bronson. Um, it's Bronson. He went for 7.5. At least he wasn't the first overall pick this time, like he was for DPL. Bronson is definitely a good player. He did make March Madness finals, where he actually lost to Money, so that's kind of interesting that they're on the same team. So I think that'll definitely be interesting seeing how they get to play. Bronson, I'm not sure if he'll just play regular format, as I don't know about his low tier or LC abilities, but I think Bronson's definitely a strong player. And for 7.5, I think that's a good deal for Bronson. I think he probably could have gone for like the 10, 11, 12 range and still been a justified payout. And then finally on this team we have Ice Demon Gray. I'm I would like to consider me an Ice friend, so I do know him fairly well. Last time I played him, I did hacks him, so um, he's definitely a good player. 14K for Ice is probably fair. He probably could have gone for a little bit more, and nobody would have thought otherwise. But I think 14K is definitely fair for Ice. Not a guy I've ever been in a team tournament with, so I can't say whether he's a good team helper or not. His team in DPL Season 1 did not do very well, but we don't need to talk about that to, not hurt Ice's feelings about how the large Weens did in Season 1. So, that's going to be the end of my recap for God's Blessing to the APA. Just my thinking on this team is it looks solid, but I'm not sure if any of these guys actually know how to play LC. Probably Ero, that's probably why they picked him. But the rest of these guys I know as just pure standard players, so I'm not sure how that's going to go for them. But I think it's definitely a good team all around. And guys like II and Money on the same team is kind of scary, so I think this will be a really good team. So next we're going to move on to Talonflame is better than Ho-Oh. The two captains are Shy Guy and Rye. Shy I do not know very well, so I'm not going to say anything about him, but Rye was a mid-season pickup in DPL, and I believe went 3-0. So he's definitely proven that he can compete with the best in the format. And their logo is kind of cool. I kind of like it. So their first pick was K-Crick. He just won Summer Showdown. He went 10-0 in Hive Mega Beedrill. So K-Crick is one of the hottest players in the format right now. Definitely worth 37K in my opinion. Like it is a ton, but I do think it is probably fair for a player of his caliber. And I think he will be pretty good team support as long as he actually tries for this. Whether he tries or not, we'll see. But if he does put in the effort, 37K is definitely worth it for him. Next, we're going to move on. They picked up GCS. Not a guy I know very well. He went for 12.5. I've seen him around, but I don't think he's in any of the top leagues personally. Um, so I'm not sure. I think, in my opinion, 12.5 is probably a little bit high, but like Mio with the first team, I'd be happy to be proven wrong. Um, Also, I will say a lot of these guys might be LC specialists or tier 3 and below specialists, so that might be why they went for a little bit more. The next guy is Spies. Never heard of Spies before. So sorry, apologies to Spies, but I don't really know him very well. He went for 8K. Um, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't know him, so I'm not gonna say whether that was a good pick or a bad pick. Like, that's not really fair to him for me to say that. So, um, I'll let him prove whether he was worth the 8K or not. Next guy is Ray. Ray, I know, is a very good player. He's one of Low QP's good friends. I actually just joined their league like last week, so I know Ray is a strong player. I think he was on Trick of Eye for DPL. I'm not sure what his record was, but I know he did fairly well. And I think 11K is probably fair. He probably could have gone for 12 or 13. It would have been fine. Um, but I think Ray will definitely be a good player. Next, we have Phil. Um, Phil probably has one of the best team names in history, being the Sexual Sex Havers. So I think that's pretty good. Phil, I don't know if Phil's actually good or not, because the only thing I know about Phil is that he lost to Zazo in that game where Zazo brought 4 Mons. So if you want to beat Phil, just bring 4 Mons. But besides that, I know Phil's a good team guy. By far one of the best DPL cheerleaders that there are, or that there is. So I'm gonna give Phil credit for being a good team guy. And I think 6K is fair. Phil's been around for a while. He's a solid player, and he'll be good team support. Next, we have Low QP. This is a guy I was actually trying to get my team to pick. Low QP actually beat me this week in his own league. We played for like 150 turns, for like an hour and a half, and nobody died for the first like hour. So he can definitely play, and he did fairly well in DPL. He beat this guy named Gypsy King last week, so yeah, that's not bad. So Loki P will definitely be a good player on this team. I think he could have gone for 20K easily and been worth it. So I think 15K for Loki P is actually a steal. Even though it's hard to say 15K is a steal, but I think it's actually a good deal for Loki P. Next we have Granky, not a guy I know very well. He went for 4.5 late in the draft. So anybody late in the draft, I'm not really gonna comment on just because I don't know them very well if they went for 4K and I don't know them. Like, uh, the next guy I do know, but Granky I really don't. So I'm just going to kind of pass on him. So hopefully he does well this season. Next we have TPB. So TPB I actually was trying to get my team to get for LC. Um, he posted something that he was like top 50 on the ladder in LC and had done well in some LC leagues. So I think for 4K, getting a good LC player is actually really, really good because there are 2 LC games a week, and if you guys have actually followed DPL at all, at least in my DPL experience, every week seems to go to Game 7. Like, I'm pretty sure I've had 1 week in my 2 seasons of DPL where the Game 7 wasn't the deciding game. So having that extra guy be able to play LC and be able to competently win it, I think is really, really good for 4K. Like, I think TPB could have gone for more, and I think he was a real steal here. So I think this team is solid. They have probably the best, or I'll say the best player that entered this in K-Crick. I'll give him that. I'll put him, like, John and Hiker are really close. And I think even Genius is really good too, but I'm going to give it to K-Crick as the best player in this. So I think they got the best player that was available, and they got some really good steals in low QP and TPB. So I think this team will do really, really well. Next, we have the Goondocks, um, with Jacob as always and Phantom Base as their 2 captains. I know Jacob uh, learned how to draft this time. There was no 60K Gypsy King this time, so good job to Jacob. Um, he surprised me actually in DPL because I didn't really know him before, but he did fairly well there. So I think Jacob will actually be a fairly strong captain here, and I think he'll do pretty well. Phantom Base I know has been in lots of good leagues. If you don't know Phantom Base, if you ever see a good doc, it might have been made by him. He's one of the best doc makers for this kind of community, so I'll give him a little shout out there. But no, I think he's in ITL and a few other leagues. I think he's actually in UDL right now, which is a league commissioned by Matty Brawlock that I'm in. So he's definitely proven that he can compete with some top players. So Phantom Base will definitely be a good captain as well. I think these two are probably one of the best captain pairs, in my opinion, anyways. So I like their chances of doing well. Their first round pick was Marin Varen, so I think, or Marvin Varvin if you prefer. Um, for 24K, I think that's good for Marin. Um, he will definitely help out a lot. I know, at least I've heard stories of his prep where he just preps like 50 different types of a team and brings the best one. So having a guy like that who's actually going to put in the work and help out the entire team is definitely worth it. So I think Marin for 24K is definitely a good pickup. I don't know how he can do in low tiers, but I think he'll definitely be solid in regular Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Next, I picked up Psychedelic Scizor, who has been on a pretty good run lately, I'm not going to lie. Psych made, I want to say, top 8 in Summer Showdown. Um, so he's been kind of hot lately. I don't know how he's going to do without some broken mons that he had there. Like, I know he brought this really cool Trick Room, like, Lurantis team in Summer Showdown. So I know he's a solid player. 10.5 is probably fair, as I know he's kind of streaky. Um, he was in CPC with me this past season. He started out like 4-0, maybe 4-1, and he ended up missing playoffs. So I know he's kind of streaky, but if they get him on a hot streak, he's definitely worth the price. Next, we have Randy HLD, the past winner of the GBA. So Randy for 11.5 is definitely, I think, a good pick. I think it's fair too. Um, as I don't know if Randy's ever played some of these top players. I don't know how he would do against guys like K Crick or John, but I think he's definitely a good player and should be able to compete at this. And I do know Randy pretty well. I did actually help him with some of his GBA builds. So I think Randy will definitely be a good player here. And I'm curious to see how he does in this. I don't think he's really ever played in some stuff like this. Like I don't think he's ever done like a team tournament or kind of ventured out of like the GBA kind of thing that at least I've seen, so I'm kind of curious to see how he does. Next, we have Orozco, Panthers' future child, from what I've heard. Orozco was drafted in DPL and I think did fairly well, so 7.5 I think is probably fair for him. I think he'll do pretty well. Um, I don't know him very well. I haven't seen him play a whole lot, so there isn't a whole lot I can say, but I think he'll do pretty well. Next, we have Clutch sometimes. I'm not really sure if about Clutch's ability. I think he was in DPL but didn't do very well, so I think that's why I went for 5K. Like I don't know him too well, but I think he can definitely play. And especially with the cheap guys, I think with like the 4 or 5K guys, the most important thing is whether they'll actually help the team or not. Because even helping out the team with mocks and stuff is really valuable. So even if like the cheaper guys don't play, if they're helping out their teams, that's really really helpful. So I'm not gonna say a lot about Clutch just because I don't know him. I don't think I've ever actually seen him play. So we're just gonna move on to Die. Die I thought was one of the better players in APA, so I'm kind of surprised he only went for 4K. I've played him before. I did beat him, but he did play fairly well in that game, so I thought he would go for a little bit more in this. But I don't know, the captains might know better than me. So, Die, I think, will be solid. For 4K, I think that's a little cheap for Die, but you never know. We're going to move on to John Jr., who, just like Die, I thought would go for a lot more in an APA based event, just because I think he's held very, very, very highly in the APA. Personally, I've never played him, never seen him play, so I'm not going to say a whole lot, but I think for 5K, John Jr. is probably a good deal. Baby Eric for 13 though, I think is probably a steal. Um, I don't think I've ever actually beaten Eric, honestly. So I think Eric going for 13. I think if he gets nom like round 1 or 2, he probably goes for like 18, 19. So I think 13K for Eric's a really good deal. So I think this team is solid. The thing I don't love is like Marin's probably their best player, and then Baby Eric, and then it kind of drops off a little bit. The two captains are good, but they also have 19.5K left, so they could really make some moves at mids, which, if you watch the last DPL season, really can make a difference, as guys like Kaz and Rye were picked up at mids and both went undefeated. So you can definitely get some really good players at mids with that 19.5K. So that's going to be really nice for them. The next team we have are the Meatball Substitutes, coached by or captained by Rinnigan and TDG. Um, I don't know these guys too well. I know TDG is a really good player, so I think he'll be solid. Rinnigan, I haven't seen Rinnigan play that much. I know he's decently well known in the community, so I just haven't seen him play a whole lot. So I'm kind of curious to watch him play and see what kind of level he's on. Their logo's kind of funny, so I kind of do like that. Just gonna say though, in your logo, when it says Meatball Substitute, might want to put the meatball first and the substitute second, but that's just me being picky. So I'll hop into their draft. So they picked John W first. John is a very good player. Um, Between him and K Crick are probably my picks for the top two players in this entire thing. So I think John going for 35 is definitely fair. He went for 50 something in DPL, so I think John for 35 is actually might be a steal. He probably could have gone for 40 pretty easily. But I think he's definitely one of the better players in this, and everybody knows John W. I don't need to talk him up. He's just a good player. Next, they picked up Vess. Oh, Vess. I like Vess. A lot of people don't like Vess. Vess is just an interesting guy. Um, he's a good player. He's a good teammate if you're winning. I know he got in a couple fights in my DPL servers. He was my teammate for DPL, and he was more than happy to help out when we were winning. When things went bad, Vest kind of dropped off. So I don't know. I'd be a little scared if I was a captain with Vest, but I think he is a good player and he will definitely pick you up some wins. So I think Vest will definitely be a good player. And for 14K, if he's happy with your team, he's definitely a good pickup. That's just what I'm gonna say. So I think Vest for 14 is a good deal. Sky going for 15.5. It's good. I don't know what the extension rule is for this. As Sky might need 3 or 4, because Sky's rule is if it's before 6 o'clock on a Sunday night, he can't play. But I don't. I think Sky was probably overpaid for, honestly. I know he's good, but I don't. I think Vest probably should have gone for more than Sky. Sky is a LD minors coach. Yeah, he should. I don't think Sky should have gone for 15.5. Personally, like like Sky should not have gone for more than low QP. That's just my opinion. Like I could see Sky going for like 10, 11. So this is probably my one. This is probably the first one I've seen this draft where it's like, okay, he probably went for too much. But again, Sky, go prove me wrong. Prove that you're better than I think, and play a game before Sunday. I dare you. Like Sky, I will make a video praising you if you play 7 games before the weekend. So there's your goal for the season. Play your games on like a Thursday, please. Next we have Moxie and Fernape. I don't know a ton about Moxie and Fernape. I know he used to be in the NPL back when NPL was really good. Not now when NPL died, but so if he's still at that same level, then I think he's definitely worth the 15.5. But if he has kind of stepped back a little bit, then maybe not. But I think he has still been playing in leagues, just whether he's still at that same level he used to be. If he is, then 15.5 is definitely a good deal for Moxie and Fernape, I think. Next we have Inversify. I don't know him too well. He went for 8K, so personally not a guy I know very well. I don't really know his playstyle or his capabilities, so I'm not going to say a whole lot. Went for 8K, so relatively cheap, at least, so not too bad. I think he'll probably do well. Just another guy with like cheaper guy who you just hope is going to help out the team a fair bit. Next, they picked up Jeremy D. Goat. Jeremy's a solid player. I know he's an LD. I played him in the first season of DPL, and he probably would have beat me, but I might have got him with this one pretty cool set. So Jeremy's a good player, though, so I think he'll definitely be worth the 6.5. And he's fair. I know he's pretty active too in the LD server, so I think he'll be active enough to help out his team with mocks and get some team advice. I think Jeremy's definitely a good pickup for 6.5. Next, we have Evan for 4. Evan should have gone for more. That's just my opinion. I played Evan about 2 hours ago and he beat me, so I'm gonna say that Evan should have gone for more than 4. Evan's a good player, and I know he's a good guy and he's pretty dedicated, so I think he would put in the effort too to help his team. So I think Evan could have gone for a lot more than 4, but he might have just been kind of forgotten in the draft. So this team I think is really good. Like they have some really good players. If John is active and is able to help his team, then this is a one of the better teams that I've seen so far. There are a few that I'm gonna get to that I think are really good as well, including my own. My own was okay, but I think this team with John and Vests and even Evan, I'll give Moxie and I'll put Moxie and Sky in there too. Like this is a very good team. Like I see these guys doing very well. So now we are going to move on to the next teams. Let me just move this quick. So next we have the Flaming Scorpions, captained by Call Me Harry and Jaden. I don't know either of these guys. I'm pretty sure Harry ran a Survivor that I played in the APA server. Besides that, I know nothing about his Pokemon ability, so I'm not gonna say anything honestly. Um, like I don't know either of these guys. I know they're fairly well known in the APA server, so I'm sure they're very good players. So I'm sure all the captains are solid players, so I'm not too worried about that. So I'm just gonna hop right into the team with these guys. So first I picked Kelly under the radar for 11, which I think is probably a steal. Every time I've seen Kelly play, he's done really really well. So I think he probably could have gone for a bit more, maybe like 15. So I think that's probably a good deal. Um, yeah, Kelly's a good player. I believe he did well in P4G, the one season where it was tier 3 and below. So I think he could definitely play low tier pretty competently and do well. So I think that's definitely a good pickup there. Next, I picked up Arctic Weavile for 6K, which I think is a good deal. I know Arctic pretty well. I thought he could have gone for more, maybe like 8, 9, maybe 10. Um, so I think Arctic is probably a good deal right there. So I like that pickup. Next, they picked up Flare Espeon. I actually did scout this guy a fair bit. He was a potential opponent in Summer Showdown, so I actually put in some effort there and ended up scouting his games and saw that he's a very strong player. So going for 15, I think, um, is probably fair. Like he really impressed me in the replays that I was watching. So I think going for 15K is definitely worth it there. I don't know why this is telling me that he can play LC as well. I could be wrong, but something tells me that he can also play LC for some reason. So correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think he is an LC player as well. Next, I picked up Shadow. I don't know a whole lot about Shadow, so I'm not going to say a whole lot. Did go for 13, which I might say is a bit of an overvalue, but um, it also might just be he does well in things that I'm not really um, I don't know a whole lot about, so just prove me wrong there. But I'm not going to say a whole lot more about Shadow just because I don't know him very well and I don't want to say things that are just a complete lie. So next we're going to move on to Pesky. Pesky for 11.5 is actually a really good deal because I know Pesky's a really strong LC player. And, well, he's also really strong in regular format too, but I know he's a really good LC player. So in something like this where you're going to need help, I think especially having guys on your team, even if they're not playing LC, that can give you team building help in LC, that is really, really helpful. So I think Pesky for 11.5 is a steal. I think Pesky could have gone for 15 and would have been pretty fairly priced. Next we have High Jump Sean for 10K. Um, he's definitely a good player. I think I've only played him once in a speed tour and came down to hacks. I think so. That's fun. But no, Sean's definitely a good player. I believe he got drafted in DPL this past season. Couldn't tell you his record, but I know he did fairly well. Um, and I think Sean for 10 is maybe fair. Maybe could have gone for a little bit more. Um, Next we have Bretibus for 4K. Brett's good. I think Brett actually might have gone for 5 in DPL Season 1. And I know he went like round 1 of DPL Season 1 as kind of a meme, but Brett's a good player. I think he could have gone for a bit more than 4, but getting Brett for 4 I think is a good deal. He's a fairly active guy, so I know he'll help out the team. I'm not going to say a whole lot more because he's a good player, nothing like crazy, but he's really good. And this right here, this next guy is, I'll say he's the steal of the draft. iPro going for 12.5 is a steal. Sadul went for, I want to say, 20 in DPL. He was on my team. He did really, really well every week. And he was he's a good player. Like, he's one of the better players. Going for 12.5 is just not, that's just a complete steal on their part. I'm guessing everyone else was just out of money at that point, and they ended up getting him cheap. So that's a steal. Um, yeah, so they ended up with 17K left in the budget, so that's really good. So they can definitely pick up some good, even better players at mids. But this team is really solid, and I think they got some of the better steals in Pesky and iPro that I've seen so far. So I'm really impressed by this team. Next team we have is North Like This, captained by Saint and Vino. I know Saint pretty well. He was on my DPL Season 1 team. And Saint's a good player. I think both these guys are in LD. They've both done fairly well. I know they're both pretty strong players. Like, this is probably one of the stronger captain cores, in my opinion. And they picked one hell of a team. At least they started out really well. They started off by picking Genius. Genius is a very good player. He made top 4 in Summer Showdown. He's done well in plenty of other leagues. He's won LD majors. He did relegate for Masters last season, but Genius for 29 I think is definitely fair, especially because he is a DPL captain right now and his team's doing really well. So he's a guy that you know will help out the team a fair bit. So I think Genius for 29 is a really good deal. Next you have Jay Carson. And Jay Carson for 23.5 is really, really good. Joe probably could have gone for 30 or same as Genius, and I think that would have been a good deal. But 23.5 is definitely a steal for Jay Carson. So I give them credit for getting him at 23.5. He made top 8, I believe, in Summer Showdown. I could be wrong, but I think he did. And yeah, Joe's just really good. I think he could have gone for more. So I think that's really good. Next guy that picked up was Jay Slink. He's been around for a while, and he actually did beat Gypsy in DPL. So that's a really good deal. For 16, I think he probably could have gone for maybe 20, but him for 16 is a good deal. Another really good player. Yeah, this top 3 is really, really good. I really like it. Yeah, Jay Slink's solid. Like, this is a good team so far. Next, I picked up Narth. I give them credit for picking up Narth just because they named the team after him. So I don't think Narth should have gone for 12. Narth in his prime probably, but I don't think Narth's really been all that active lately. So I'm not gonna I don't know how much he's actually been playing lately. So, and I think he only went for 5 in DPL. So going for 12 here might be a bit of an overpay. But I think Narth is a guy who, like, if he plays well, is definitely worth it. Like, if he plays up to his potential, is definitely worth the 12K. Next, we have BM. I don't know a ton about BM. He's been around a fair bit. I believe he was on my DPL team Season 1. Yeah, he was. And he did fairly well. But besides that, he's not a guy that I've seen play a whole lot. But I do know he's he's a pretty good player. And, he's definitely good. So I think BM for 7.5 is a good deal. Once again, on this team, though, the one concern I have is I don't know if any of these guys can actually play LC or low tier. But I do think they patched that up. The next guy they picked up was Cult. I don't know a thing about them. They went for 4K. Never heard of them before, so I'm not going to say anything. Like, if I don't know them, I don't want to insult them, so I'm just going to let it go. Next guy, Gino Plaz. I believe he's actually a really good LC player. So going for 4K, I think, is a steal. Like, I believe Plaz is like a Smogon LC player. I think I've seen him playing that a fair bit before. So I think that's a steal right there. I think Plaz should have gone for more in a format where LC's in it. The next guy I do not know though. I don't know this Avon guy, so I'm not gonna say anything really. Like I don't know him, so hopefully he does well. This team I think is really good. Getting Plaz as a steal. Jay Carson or Joe should have gone for more. Jay Slink is definitely worth that or more. So I think this team will do really well, and they have two of the better captains that are in this, I believe. Next, we're gonna move on to the 5'11s, captained by 6 foot Hacks and Harris. I'm guessing on this team, 6 foot Hacks will play a lot more than Harris will. I just know that Harris is kind of Leo's like front office guy, so I know they're good friends and they'll like it's probably the best captain corps as far as like I know the guys are really good friends that I've talked about so far. So I think they'll do fairly well. Their first pick was LeJohn for 9K. Um, I don't know why I'm clicking on it. LeJohn did win Hive Mega Beedrill, or I think back then it was just Beedrill, but he did win that. So like LeJohn's a good player. It's just he just really hasn't done well in team tournaments. Like DPL season 1, he was not good. DPL season 2, he was not very good. So something about team tournaments with LeJohn, but if you get LeJohn for 9K, I think that's a good deal. Like he should do better. Like he should be worth more than 9. I think just his reputation isn't helping him out right now. So, but I think LeJohn for 9 is definitely a good deal. Next, they picked up Jake for 30.5. I think that's a good deal for Jake. Jake's a good player, and yeah, Jake's a good player. I think that's a good deal for Jake. 30.5. He'll win most of his games in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I don't see him going down to any lower tiers, but I see Jake doing pretty well. That's a good deal. I kind of like that he was a little bit lower than guys like K Crick and John, but he definitely deserves to be paid for. Like he went for what 1.5K more than Genius, so I think those two are about the same in my opinion, anyways. So I think that's about a fair deal for Jake there. Next, they picked up Legits. I think Legits did really bad in DPL. I'm pretty sure. I think he went like 0-4. But Legit is a good player from what I know, so I think his DPL run kind of hurt his value there. So I think if Legit actually plays up to his potential, he probably could have gone for more than 8.5. But I know a lot of these coaches might have actually looked at DPL records. Um, I mean, that's why I think I went for a lot. My DPL record was really good. So I think they looked at Legit's DPL record and probably didn't want to bid on him. So I think that's probably a steal for 8.5. Uh, Next is Metal. Metal is a really good player. I thought he would go for more than 15. Like he, I can look it up right now. I have the DPL doc right here. I'm not gonna move the screen just because that's a lot of effort on my part. But I'm just gonna look for Metal here. Metal went 4-3. Okay, so that's. I thought he did better than that, but I think he might have been like 4-1 at one point. So I think he dropped his last two. But Metal did do really well at the start of the season, and he is a really strong player. So I think Metal for 15 is a really good deal. Probably could have gone for a little bit more. Next we have Mayo for 23. I think that might be a little bit high, but Mayo is a good player. It's just, yeah, maybe that's fair for Mayo. It might be a little high, or it's fair for Mayo. I'm not. It's definitely not too little for Mayo, but Mayo is definitely a good player. So we'll see how he does. I'm gonna say it's a bit of an overpay, but Mayo is more than welcome to prove me wrong. Next up, they picked up TJB for 12.5. I think that's a good deal. TJ is a good player. Um, Maybe went for a little too much. I would say TJ is probably like 10K, but 12.5 I see it, especially as these guys weren't going to be able to pick up another player anyways if they went over 10. So I think putting in a few extra thousand into TJB is perfectly fair, and I think he's a solid player. Like this team is probably the best top to bottom, in my opinion. But you also see they don't have anybody that went for 4K. Like their cheapest guy was 8.5. Like their round one pick was almost their cheapest pick. So top to bottom, it's a good team. It's just they are lacking players. Like they only have 8 players. So that could suck if guys are busy. Like if they have 2 guys gone, they're kind of screwed. So I do like having more players on a team in this kind of format, but um, I think it's fine here, personally. Like I don't blame them. Oh, sorry, I'm just playing around a bit right now, just trying to get this. There we go. I just don't want to have to move the screen again. So yeah, that's those guys. Next, we're gonna move on to the big bad Go-Goats, captained by Love Chance and Word Life. Love Chance did really well this past DPL season. I know him fairly well. He did get 6-0'd by Will the RNG Lord about a couple weeks ago. So besides that, Love Chance is a really good player. Um, Word Life I know is really solid too. Word Life actually did beat me in my league this past season, so I know they're both really good players. So this is this is probably the strongest captain core in my opinion. Like my top three captain cores are probably these guys, Saint and Vino, and then Jacob and Phantom Base. I don't know about Harris. I know Leo's a good player, so if Harris is as good as Leo, then I'll put them in there too. But these guys are probably like Love Chance and Word Life are probably the two strongest in my opinion. And they started their draft really well, getting Hiker. Hiker for 37K is a same as like a John or a K Crick. Hiker's a really good player. Sucks I couldn't get him for like 30, like people like Jake and Genius went for, but I think Hiker's definitely worth the extra 7. So Hiker will definitely be a good player. Um, he's been a DPL captain both seasons, so he definitely is a good team support kind of guy. And I think he might actually do better here than he has in DPL, just because he doesn't have to worry about all of his team's games as much. He can focus on his own a little bit more. So I have faith that Hiker will do really well here. Next, they picked up Greg. Greg for 20, I think is a good deal. Greg's a good player. If he actually tries and doesn't just go play Yu-Gi-Oh and actually plays his games and doesn't, or if he plays more than 2 games, I think Greg's definitely a good deal for 20K. Greg's definitely a strong player. Um, I believe he's still in LD Masters. I could be wrong. I know he was last season. Um, so Greg's definitely worth it. Next is Halu. I put Halu and like Vess in like the same category as they're both really good players. It's just whether they get along with their teammates or not. As Halu did go 6-1 in the first season of DPL. Don't want to toot my own horn, but I did 6-0 him for his only loss. So Halu is definitely a really good player. Um, and 18K for Halu's good. Probably could have gone for like 20, 21, 22, and nobody would have said anything. But I think Halu for 20 or for 18, sorry, is definitely a good value there. Next is Troy. Troy was on my DPL Season 1 team, and he did really well. Troy was one of the steals, so I think 9.5 for Troy's good. He probably could have actually gone for like 10 or 11, and it would have been good, but I think Troy's definitely a steal. Um, yeah, same thing that I've seen with a lot of the teams, though. I don't know who plays LC in this group, but I'm sure they'll find somebody. Next is Midicus. He's an APA guy, don't know him. Not going to say anything. Really, like I think he's a strong player, but I'm not gonna go out of my way and say something one way or the other about him. Next is Jasper. Jasper, I don't know very well either. Um, I think he's on Love Chance's team in this other team tournament that I'm also playing in, so I think that's probably why Jasper was picked up. And I actually think that the Pichu Bros is on that team as well, and I think he's done really really well in that. So I think that's why they picked up Jasper and Pichu for 4. So this team looks really strong all around to me. Whether their 4Ks perform well, I think is really important on this team. As the thing I don't really love though is like if you look at Leo's team here, they got 6 guys, or these guys drafted 7, but Leo's team has no 4K people, and these guys have 3 of them. So I'm not sure how that's gonna work with 3 4K guys on your team, but see how it goes for them. Next, we're gonna move on to my team. The yellow color, captained by Tort and Silver Seraph. Honestly, going into this, I'd never heard of. Well, I knew Tort. I just never seen him actually play a game. I don't know if I knew Silver Seraph. Just from like the last day, I've learned that Silver Seraph is a pretty good LC player. So that's nice having somebody who's good in LC. And Tort, I'm not really sure what he's gonna play, but I think he's a pretty strong player as well. So our team first pick was Owen. Um, Owen's a really good player. He brings really fat stuff and then tries to beat you with an Alamamola, I'm pretty sure. That's pretty much his team structure in every team. But Owen for 24 is a good deal. Um, then no, Owen's a good player. I think 24 is probably fair for him. Hopefully he does better here than he did in DPL, because I know that was the meme, was he was the Orash Gypsy King. So hopefully here he can become the, like, I don't know, maybe we'll put him in LC. He can be the LC Gypsy King or Tier 3 and below Gypsy King, whatever he prefers here. Next is me. I don't really want to say a whole lot about myself. Like, I went for 24.5. I think that was probably due to my recent, how well I've been doing in 8-Mon lately. Like, I made, top 16 in Summer Showdown. Did really well in DPL. I won the IPA tournament. And Brawl for All I did really well. So I think my recent kind of run in 8-Mon might have boosted my value. So, and I have played LC before, and I have played Tier 3, but I don't really plan on going down there. There's definitely guys who are better than me in the LC tiers and probably Tier 3 and below as well. So I'll say my value's fair, but I'm not really, I don't know, I'm not going to say a whole lot about myself. I don't know what to say. Next we have Wombo. Wombo's a good pick. This is one of the guys I did message my captains to try to pick up, as Wombo I know is really, really good in Tier 3 and below. And going for 15.5, having a guy who I have faith will probably win almost all his games in Tier 3 and below is really, really good. So I have faith in Wombo down there. And I think him going for 15.5 is definitely a good deal. So, yeah, Wombo's definitely a good pick up there. Next we have JJ for 7.5. This is actually another guy that I did message Tort to pick up. JJ did win my league in this past season. So, and he did beat me on his way there. So I know how good JJ is. And I think being able to pick him up for 7.5 is actually a really good steal. I would have bid probably 10 on JJ. So getting him for 7.5 is actually really, really good. Next we have Hydra. I didn't know him when he got picked in DPL. He went 1-1 in DPL. Honestly, I still don't really know who he is. So he went for 7.5, which I don't know. I think JJ probably should have gone for more than him, but he is on my team, so hopefully he's good team support and hopefully he wins some games. Next we have Mustang. Mustang's a good player. The only time I played him, he did beat me. I think he actually 6-0'd me, but I don't really count that game because I built my whole team around one thing to beat his Halucha. And he crit me, so then I lost to Halucha. So yeah, that was fun. But besides that, I know he's a good player. 6.5 is probably fair. He probably could have gone for a little bit more as well. So I think Mustang's a good pickup there as well. Next we have It's Whatever, or It's whatever he wants to go by. Not a guy I know very well. I think he's in LD minors, but he's not a guy I know very well. He went for 4K, so like the other 4Ks, there's not a whole lot I can say. I think he's a good player. Just not a guy I've seen play a whole lot. So I'm not going to be able to tell you if he's amazing or what he actually plays, if he's going to be playing other tiers, but I know he's a solid guy. And then our final pick was Heat Lord Josh. Not a guy I know really at all. I saw Josh. I thought it was Ace Trainer Josh or Josh Master. So I don't know a Heat Lord Josh. So hopefully he's good. So yeah, that's my team. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot more I could say about my team. So we're gonna move on to the Bug Bite Bros. Captained by Bandit Caterpie and John, aka Scotty. This is a team where I really don't know a lot of their guys. Like, I know 3 people on this team. So, I'm going to go over everybody. I feel like I should know Ogobina, but I don't. So, I'm going to go over everyone that I know, and, like, so I'll go over their whole team, but I'm not going to be able to say a whole lot. Like, they picked up Jock first. I don't know him whatsoever. Went for 7.5. So I'll say there's an overpay. Maybe it's fair price. A round 1 pick going for that cheap. He must be a friend of theirs, is my guess. Like, I think this is the team. This is kind of what I was expecting with a lot of these teams. Is they picked like mono APA guys, kind of like the Baguette gang. So in DPL, where they picked only the French people and then tried to turn other people into French people. So um, yeah, Jock, I really don't know. He went for 7.5. So the next guy they picked up was DeGraffi. The only reason I know him is because in the Clash General chat, everyone just was wondering, like, I think I saw like 50 people who said, "Who is this?" So him going for 7 might be a bit of an overpay if nobody knew who he was. So, yeah, I'm not going to say a whole lot. Next, we have Pokeaim Slayer, Specs King himself, going for 11K. This team is kind of cool that has two of my DPL captains on it, in Specs King and Shuckle King. So, Specs King's a good guy. He was pretty good team support in DPL. Not as much as probably a captain should, but probably the right team support level for a regular player on the team, so I think he'll be good in this sense for these guys. And him going for 11K is probably fair. He did beat Joey, so I'll give him credit for that, but I don't think he's Specs King is not a top tier player, but he's definitely a good player, and he'll definitely win some games for you. Next is T-Row Price. Yeah, I don't know who this is, so I'm just gonna move on. Next is Sablo. Sablo for 16K is a really good deal. Former LD champion, I believe. Every time I've played Sablo, it's been a good game, so I definitely think he could have gone for a little bit more, maybe like 20K, and definitely would have been a good deal. I think Sablo just does get hurt by he's never really done amazing in team tours. He captained this past season of DPL, but besides that, he was on large weens season 1, and we don't really talk about them. They didn't do very well, so. But Sablo is definitely a good player, and I think could have gone for a little bit more. Next is Ogobina. I don't know a lot about them. They went for 17, so if they went for this much, I'm going to say they're probably a fairly good player. So I'm not going to say it's an overpay, but it's just not someone I know very, very well. So I will move on, just because I don't know them very well, so I will move on. Next we have Shuckle King. Shuckle's a really good player. He was my captain in season 1, and I think Shuckle could have gone for more. I could have seen Shuckle going in like the low 20s, like 21, 22-ish. So I think 18 is a really good deal for someone of Shuckle King's caliber. So I really like that. And then the last guy they picked up was Prof. Chewy. Again, no idea. So I'm just not going to say anything. These guys have 15.5 left for mid, so I think that's really good. As their most expensive guy was only 18K. So I think that's a really good deal. So these guys will definitely be a threat mid-season to see who they pick up. So we have two more teams left that we're going to go over. Next is the Didgeridoos and Kangaroos, captained by Blinn and Kurt the Buzzwole. Uh, two guys that are also APA guys. I don't know them. Well, I've talked to Blinn before, but neither of these guys are guys that I know well in the draft format. I don't really know how they play. But they do have a couple guys that I know on the team, so I'm kind of excited about this team. First guy I picked up was Panther. Obviously, Panther is the APA commissioner who is hosting this event, and Panther is a very good LC player. He did captain the Crit City in the past DPL season, so he does know how to do team tournaments, and he will be really good team support for his team. And I think he'll be one of the better LC players in this format. So he went for 26, which I think is fair. He might have also gone for a little bit more just because he is hosting the event and it is his league. But I do give him credit, and congrats to Panther on his third kid on the way. Just had to get that out there. I hope you and little Orozco will have everything that you guys need. So yeah, Panther for 26K I think is a good deal. Next is Dark for 15K. Dark's an LD guy, not doing very well in LD right now. I think he's like 0-5. But he did just beat me in DPL. He's my one of only 2 losses this season for me, so I know Dark's a good player. 15K is probably fair. Maybe a bit of an overpay, but I'll say it's fair for Dark. I think he's a good player. He's just kind of struggling right now in LD, but I think he's definitely a good player all around. Next is Consequences. This is actually Youngster Bill. It's just he goes by Youngster Bill, but I think he signed up as Consequences. So if you don't know him, this is Youngster Bill. He did captain the Platoon Goons in Season 1 of DPL, so he definitely has done this before, and he did do fairly well this past season of DPL as well. So Bill is definitely a good player with lots of experience in this kind of format. and he is an LD Masters coach. So I think Bill for 18 is a great deal. I think Bill could have been easily like 20, 21, 22, even up to like 25, and probably still been worth it. So I think Bill's definitely a steal there. Next, these guys picked up Shiny Sableye 17, aka Ben, for 15, former captain of the Large Weens. Sorry, Ben. Um, uh, Ben's a good player. 15 might be a little high, but I think he's definitely a good player. So I think he'll definitely pick up some wins here. I think 15 is actually probably fair for Ben. And Ben's a pretty active guy. I think he'll definitely help out his team with building. As long as he doesn't get accused of ghosting. I mean, what? I didn't say that. Um, but no, Ben's definitely a good player. I'll move on to the next guy, who's Austrian George. Don't know. I'm sorry, George, but not. I don't really know anything about George. He went for 4K fairly early, so I'm guessing a lot of people didn't know who he is. Next is Scoot. I do know Scoot pretty well. I've played Scoot way too many times. Scoot's a good player. For 4K, I think that's definitely a steal. I think Scoot could have gone for like 6 or 7. I think it would have been a good deal. But yeah, Scoot's good. I don't think he plays anything besides regular format, so I'm not sure what these guys are going to have for lower tier players, but I think a lot of the regular guys can play low tier and do fairly well, so I think they'll be okay there. Next, they picked up Furfru. I don't know Furfru from a player perspective. I do know him fairly well as he's helping me run a tournament right now. But I don't know him as a player very well, but 6K I think is fair. I think that's pretty good. And finally, these guys picked up my friend Webley. Um, Webley's a really good player. I think he's 5-0 right now in that team tournament I was telling you guys about before. So Webley's definitely a steal for 4K. Um, he was a guy who played in EBT for a long time. And I've seen him play guys like L5 and Rob Jr. and give them really good games and even beat them. So I think Webley will be a really strong player here. I think he's definitely a steal for 4K. So these guys do have 8K left for mids, and I think their team is overall really, really good. Um, I think Scoot and Webley are two of the better 4K picks in this entire thing that I've seen so far. So I think this team will do really well. And the final team are the APA's biggest cuties, coached by Aurora Infinity and Lapis. So I think this team will do really well. This is one team I know that I was thinking that I might get picked by. It didn't end up getting picked, but I think their first pick kind of hurt my chances as they did pick up King L5 for 37K, and L5 is good. Some people think he's the best 8-mon player, and I'm not going to argue with them. He's very, very good. So I think L5 for 37K is a really good pickup. Um, he is the commissioner of the DPL, so he is not new to this team tournament stuff. So L5 will definitely be a good pickup for that team. Next, they picked up Illusion. I'm not sure how Illusion will do now that he's separated from II and Lejon. But Illusion is a really good player, going for 19.5. I think is probably good value for Illusion. Yeah, I think that's good. I don't think I would spend any more than 20 on Illusion, but I think that's definitely a good value for him. He's definitely a really good player, and I like Illusion on this team. Like this team has some really good players. Next, they picked up Elliott for 17.5, which I think is definitely a steal. Elliott probably could have gone for like 20 to 25, and nobody would have said anything. He did make top 8 in Summer Showdown, I believe it was. Ooh, let's get rid of that. So yeah, Elliott's definitely a really good player, and I think Elliott will do fairly well this season. I think he was undervalued. I think Elliott could have easily gone for 20 to 25 and would have been a good value. Next, we have Big Daddy Dave. Dave's definitely a good player. Dave going for 10 is probably a little bit cheap as well. I think Dave could have gone up to like 15. He's been an LD forever. Dave's in every league. I don't think Dave has a life. I've never seen any like league or event without Dave in it. So I think Dave will do well in this. 10K for Dave is probably fair. 10 to 15 is good for Dave, I would say. Next, they picked up Kizu. Don't really know Kizu, honestly. Um, yeah, the 4Ks on this team I don't know very well. I do know Chibi-chan. He was on my team for the Draft League World Cup. and he did fairly well. So I know he'll be decent team support and probably a pretty good 4K player. KMJ I do know, I just don't know whether he's actually good or not. I know him from like the community, but I don't know for him from like a playing perspective. And Marsh I know is pretty good. Marsh played in my league in the past season and did fairly well. I believe he made playoffs. So I know this team is pretty good. Um, a top, I think their top four of like Lapis, L5, Illusion, and Elliot's really good and can probably match any other teams pretty easily. I think that's probably one of the better top fours in the entire thing. So this is one of my favorite teams and one of the teams I could see doing really well in this. So that's every team. Before I do end this, I do have a couple people who I thought could have been picked or just special shoutouts. So let me just move this so that I can actually see these players. So first guy was Helmy. I thought Helmy probably should have been picked. Helmy is an ITL guy. Um, he's a really solid player, and I thought he definitely should have been picked over some of the 4K guys. Like he's a guy who I think will be heavily targeted in mids. Next guy is Agronauts. Um, Agro's a very good LC player, and I thought LC players would be highly coveted in this kind of format, so I was very surprised to see that he wasn't drafted. So I expect a team that's been struggling with LC to pick him up at mids for sure. Pyronox is a really good player who I actually knocked out of Summer Showdown. And I think, and again, like a guy who definitely should have been picked over some of the 4K guys who I don't really know. Next is Pi. Um, Pi is a good player. I've never seen Pi do poorly, honestly. Like he's a good player and definitely should have been picked up. Then there's Will. For those of you that don't know, I tend to build most of Will's teams. So if you picked up Will, you pretty much were getting one of my builds, especially if he was on my team. So I thought Will probably could have been picked. I had to shout out Banana, I guess Nana now, because he put in his player info that he 6-0'd me in Brawl for All with a Calm Mind Tri Attack Blissey. So I do give him credit for that. So I had to give him a little bit of a shout out. And then I thought Kohanks would get picked. I did actually give my captains, like I asked my captains if they could pick him up as I was on his World Cup team and he did really well. And I believe he does play in the APA, so I thought he would do pretty well here. But he didn't get picked up, so that's that. But I'm going to end the video here, and good luck to everyone playing, and hopefully some of these guys who didn't get picked up, hopefully you get picked up in mids, and good luck, guys. Hopefully you don't hack me. Peace.